I don't care about having even one more new follower. Why do I need another one? I don't know the people who are following me. People want to consume less. We don't want to spend as much time on social, so we want to follow less. How many people do you follow and look at all of their content? I think the biggest trend is community.
Your community doesn't have to be large for you to be able to survive in a social media recession.
You could create a real business with under 500. Whatever platform you're on, that's the move.
If you've been noticing that your views are going down, your engagement, your likes are going down, you're not alone. Everything is changing in social media. There's a lot of trends that are dead and they just do not work anymore. And there's a lot of new things that you need to know if you ultimately want to not just grow your following, but grow your business, generate sales, and make an impact in more people's lives. So today we have Chalene Johnson back on the Think Media podcast. She's a New York Times bestselling author, the founder and creator of the Marketing Impact Academy. And she's going to be dropping some free game about how to get your social media right now. Chalene, how's it going?
Dude, how do you do that without notes? Like you just riff that. You are a unicorn.
I mean, I got lucky, but I've known you now. It's like 8-9 years.
Yeah.
We're coming
at
up
least,
on
right?
our decade.
Wow, we should throw a party.
We should throw a party. Yeah.
Like a vow renewal.
That would be awesome. And I'm so grateful for you because you love social media, you study it at a high level, and you are, I know people don't like the term influencer, you're an Instagrammer, all these followers and all this stuff, you've built up your platform, but you're a real business owner, you're a real entrepreneur that ties the social media world into customer sales, leads, but you understand all these divergent worlds and can bring some clarity in the chaos that we're experiencing right now.
That's what it is too, it's chaos.
Yeah, it's just wild out there. And I know people are a lot frustrated, what worked in the past isn't working right now. Mm-hmm. So I wanna actually tackle some trends that have died before we get into some things that are working and how do we really build our business on social. But what are some dead trends that you're noticing? How do you feel about celebrity influencer endorsements?
They're not doing well. I mean, if you look at big brands, and by the way, there's exceptions to everything, right? There's some celebrities who they touch it and it sells out immediately. But now brands are looking at how they're spending their dollars and they have so much a much easier time working with people with a smaller following who have a very loyal community that listens to them and believes them and doesn't see them as this kind of like sellout celebrity kind of thing. So the celebrities are not getting their big brand deals anymore because those dollars are being spent on, micro and nano influencers.
And define a micro and nano influencer.
Well, I don't think anybody, for whatever reason, wants to be called an influencer anymore. It has like this really negative connotation, but basically, if you've got more than 100 people that are following you and interacting, right, and they're real people, then you've got some influence. And that means that brands are looking at you like, okay, does this person have a good relationship with the people who are communicating with them? Is there trust there? And they would much rather do, hundreds of nano influencer deals versus one big mega influencer deal, where that person's hard to work with. Their rates are ridiculous. You can't tell if they've bought half their followers. The engagement isn't real. So they would much rather work with these people who are more authentic.
Yeah, that's really good news. We talk a lot for small YouTube creators or smaller channels or across the platforms. Micro and nano influencers are where brands want to invest their dollars. Mm-hmm. And the influencer marketing industry, the last numbers we were looking at was close to 20 billion and growing about 20% a year. That's just that vertical. There's so many different ways to make money. Just that one vertical is massive money flowing into the system. So that's actually a good news, dead trend that the money is going to everyday creators. How about on Instagram and other vertical platforms where people are lip syncing, pointing at words and kind of dancing around?
Sometimes it will work, but rarely, because how often do you just swipe past that? And if we're talking about monetizing your social media, you've got to get people to know, like, and trust you. I don't know you. I'm not even hearing your voice. You're using someone else's voice. You're pointing to words on the screen. And listen, I still do it sometimes because I'm being lazy. It's super easy to create that kind of content. So I don't want to discourage someone who's like, oh man, I just found the courage to do this, then continue. But eventually, we need to know who you are, and we need to hear your voice. And the consumer is kind of sick of the copycat trend, which really worked. Like, that's how TikTok took off. Like, there was a trend, and then everybody copied the trend. You'd see like 50,000 versions of that same trend. And now people are like, I got it. Like, let's see something real.
So best practice in today's world is talk to camera, get on camera if we're going vertical video and
Yep.
social media, and deliver some value. And
But value isn't enough. Like,
Okay.
I mean, it used to be.
so that's another dead trend. So another dead trend is just providing value.
Yes, unfortunately.
So what's the next level?
The next level is, how do you provide value that captivates the entire time? So it's like really thinking about, just like you do on YouTube, what is the very first sentence that I'm going to say on Instagram and TikTok and any of these short form platforms. You used to be able to just like create some great content and there was a hook in there someplace, but now you've got 3 seconds. So that extra breath is a moment where you might lose some, and they're swiping. So it's really putting thought in up-leveling your content, because your mom is creating content. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so much supply and very little demand. So you have to up-level. That means if you're going to provide value, you've got to think about, how can I captivate?
And part of that is also entertaining. And so you'd call it edutainment.
I would.
Education with entertainment, but something that's make it more interesting. You have the environment you're filming in, the
It can
the
be
cadence.
edits. I mean, because
Okay.
I've seen some people who are like not entertaining people in real life. I
Yeah.
just know because I've met them.
Yeah.
But their content's super entertaining because they found a really great editor, or maybe they're doing it themselves. Hopefully they're outsourcing that. But you can take any piece of content, a professor delivering a lecture, and if it's edited the right way, it's entertaining.
How about the metaverse?
What about the metaverse? That word scares me. What is that? What do
I
you
know.
want to know?
Do you think it's a big trend this year? Or do you think it's kind of dead for now? I don't think that it's the place that people are focusing on.
No, I don't. I think for entrepreneurs, like in terms of saving time and even just like writing captions and coming up with great titles and even content ideas, artificial intelligence, oh my God, like friggin' game changer. Like it just, for that person who's like, I'm not creative, I can't come up with ideas. I've just got the script, but I don't know how to make my first sentence interesting. Throw it into ChatGPT or an AI platform and say, tell me what's the most interesting sentence to start this paragraph off so I hook my viewers.
So a dead trend is humans that are not enhanced by artificial intelligence.
Basically, yeah.
If you are just, I don't want to use it, I don't want to leverage it. I think the quote that's been going around is, artificial intelligence isn't going to replace you. Somebody using artificial
That's really
intelligence
good.
is going to replace you.
Facts. And it's a skill to use it. Like you just, whatever you put in as a prompt, what you're going to get back is like, okay. But then you just keep refining it. And the next thing you know, you're like, did I write this? I'm a genius. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's being patient.
What do you think about NFTs?
I know nothing about them.
Yeah.
They don't interest me at all. Like I'm like a la 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 la. So that's what I know about NFTs.
Brock Johnson was mentioning that
Who's he?
Instagram backed off.
Oh, I know.
On their NFTs.
Yeah.
And originally, there's a new
I
CEO.
told them to, because I was like, guys, this is boring.
Right? And there's the market's also crashed, the value, and there's been a lot of low trust level in them because there were so
Yeah.
many scams.
I just didn't get it. Anytime someone described it to me, I'm like, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And not only that, but Susan, the CEO of YouTube, left, was replaced by a new guy. And some of the mistrust for him was like, YouTube's going all in on NFTs.
Oh.
And it's all kind of dissolved. So I think that's probably another dead trend. Probably not forever, but at least for now.
As with all trends, right? Sometimes they do cycle back, and that's why you have to tune into experts so that you don't have to figure it out. Like watching the show, and when you have an expert, it's like outsourcing that side of your business, because this stuff is a game changer. Like you have such an advantage if you understand what trends are dying, and what's about to happen, so you can innovate.
Yes. And so speaking now of, we've been talking kind of about what's not working with everything that's changing in social media and what is working.
Well, I think it's important to talk about the fact that we're in a social media recession, and there is an inordinate number of people who are just now producing content. Your mom, your cousin, like everyone has multiple accounts. They're creating content. Everyone wants to be get podcast deals or sponsorship or become a nano influencer. So there's an unbelievable supply. And statistically speaking, people want to consume less. We don't want to spend as much time on social, so we want to follow less. So it's just like a recession in the economy when there's, people don't have enough money, i.e. time, and there's a huge supply. Then what you're going to see is people are very choosy about how they're spending, and they're spending their time on the very few creators who actually deliver, right? So because of that, if you know that, and just think about your own human nature, how many people do you follow and look at all of their content? Very few, right? And you probably follow thousands of people, at least hundreds, and maybe you look at between 5 and 8 of them per day. So how do you become one of those 5 or 8? You do that by understanding human nature. It's if you're getting fewer likes, less engagement, fewer followers, you're not doing something wrong. We just have so much supply. So how do you combat that? What's the trend? The trend is to be innovative, to adapt, to not follow the trends, to notice what you're not interested in anymore on social and stop producing that. Like, even though everyone's producing the same kind of thing and you're like, this is so boring or dumb, then don't do that, you know? Even though it seems like it's popular, it's not, it's dying. By the time you're sick of it, it's dying. So innovate, be creative. I think the biggest trend is community. You know, we were just talking about music, right? Like when people, back in the day, you buy an album, you listen to every single song over and over and over again. Now you hear someone, you know, dropped a new album and you listen to the hit and then you move on.
And that's it.
Yeah. Unless you're like, that's your dude, right? Like Drake just dropped a new album. I'm gonna listen to every single song, you know, and memorize the words because you belong there, right? Like, so I think creating community in our social is so underrated.
That's huge. I know that our mutual friend, Pat Flynn, who's also one of the instructors in the Marketing Impact Academy, wrote a book called Superfans.
Loved it.
Superfans is the edge. And what's kind of funny is thinking about dead trends or new trends. Community, you could call it a new trend, but there's a book called Raving Fans.
Oh, yeah.
That's maybe 20, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Raving fans is the essence of any real business.
Yes.
If you can actually make deeper connections, and then your community doesn't have to be large for you to be able to survive in a social media recession.
That's right.
If you have 1,000 true fans, then anything's possible, and you could weather any storm.
And less than 1,000 today. You know, I think if they were to republish that book, it'd be less than 1,000. I think you could create a real business with under 500 if you're really tapping into your community, right? And I think that's what a lot of people miss because they're focused on getting that viral video. And when you focus on going viral, what happens is you follow a trend and you get all these people to follow you or at least see your content, and they don't follow you because the rest of your content doesn't deliver that same thing, that niche. It doesn't provide value that's entertaining on that same particular topic. People are very topic focused. We have a problem that we need to solve, and that's why I'm following you. That's why I subscribe to your YouTube channel. That's why I continually watch your content.
Is there an example that comes to mind of a business or a brand, your own or somebody else's, that has innovated or pivoted in this recession and something that they're doing recently? Yeah.
Well, I would, not to toot my own horn, but I really did a big pivot. I don't care about having even one more new follower on Instagram, even though I teach Instagram and I tell people, don't do what I do if you're looking for more followers. I'm not. I have over 760,000 followers. Why do I need another one? I don't know the people who are following me. And I just want to make sure they're consuming my content. I have a relationship with them. So I just focus now, really my strategy there is to really connect on stories. And I spend a lot more time in my DMs than I do thinking like, okay, what should be the next reel that I post? Or is this, cool or interesting? Am I going to get new followers? Is this going to go viral? I don't care because I built it, right? So now I want to get to know them.
That's interesting. And by spending more time in your DMs, you're spending more time going deeper with the people who are already there rather than being in this pursuit and desperate cling for new people or more people or going viral.
Yeah, and desperate's a word. I think we all, and I can say we've all feel that way sometimes where you're like, you look at other people's content and sometimes it's dumb content where you're like, how is this going viral? And you're like, okay, I'm going to do something dumb too. And it just doesn't work. And then you start to question yourself and you go on this loop where you're looking at and then you're like, okay, I'm going to quit. I'm done with social media. I hate it. But if you just don't worry about those metrics. Like, do not worry about those vanity metrics. And you really just think about like, how can I entertain, provide value, but also let people know who I am and just keep pouring into my community. Every day I'll hear from students who are like, I can't get people to talk to me or engage with me in my social, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And when I go and look at their content, it's almost always because it's monologue style. Where they're just like talking at them as opposed to bringing them in, getting their feedback, asking their opinions, delivering content because they asked for it, and then also saying the reason why I've just created this for you. Like, nothing I do in my business has anything to do with my hair, right? But in my DMs yesterday, all day long, people are like, will you show us how you do your hair? Show us how you do your hair. And I'm like, all right, that has nothing to do with my niche. But I created a reel today showing people how I style my hair because I'm pouring into my existing followers, and that's what they asked for. And I want them to look at me as like I'm their girlfriend, their BFF.
Yeah, that's powerful. Now, I want to talk about how to actually monetize on social. A lot of creators are focusing on the wrong things.
Yes.
Now, we're also only going to be able to cover so much, and we're going to co-host a free class, and that's at ideatoincome.tips if you want to register, entirely free. You're really doing the heavy lifting.
Yep.
You've got a whole presentation. And I remember, I love your trainings. You've done many for our community. You spoke at Vid Summit a while back, crushed that session. And so you just pack it so full of value. So I just want to make sure that's on people's radar.
Yeah.
Ideatoincome.tips if you want to register for that free training. When it comes to most people focusing on social media and trying to make money, everybody thinks they need 1 million followers. They need to go viral. They are hoping that Reels Meta pays them, even though they just pulled that away.
Yeah.
They're hoping to get monetized on YouTube, even though unless you're massive, it kind of just pays pennies, so it's not very practical. Yeah. And so where are people missing it in terms of their philosophy of actually making money on social media?
And that's why I'm doing this workshop, because we want this to be super simple, and it's not. There are levels to it. It's not just what you're seeing. Like, we see someone who's got a large YouTube following, a large Instagram following, getting a lot of likes, and that's how they're making money. But it's not, right? And so it's teaching people how much they're leaving on the table, number one. So how to set up a foundation so that if you do get approached by somebody who wants to offer you a brand deal or a paid post, do you already know how to position yourself? Do you already know how to disclose or pitch your rates? Do you already have, if someone is looking at your viral video, or we call it viral for me, right? So if you have a video that goes viral for you, meaning it gets 50% more views than what you get on a normal piece of content, so that's a really good piece of content for you. What do you do with those people when they look at it? They may never come back. So how do you capture them? It's understanding the things you have to set up, like an email list, understanding retargeting, understanding how you can, once you've got someone's attention, it's the most valuable thing you could have. Don't let them just walk out the door, right? So I like to teach people what do those basics look like, because they're not that hard, but no one talks about it. It's all gate kept, And maybe it's not gatekept. Maybe just people find it boring. But if you don't do it, you're not going to make money. I mean, the chances are of you making a business out of your social media is pretty sketch.
Yes. And a sustainable business as well, because for a lot of people, content creators, quote unquote influencers, or even entrepreneurs that dip their toes in the social media game, it's kind of feast or famine or 15 minutes of fame. A lot of people are here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's interesting as one of the reasons why you're such a mentor to me is because you have stood the test of time and continue to reinvent yourself. You've weathered every economic, the highs and the lows, because you've built a real business. And I think that there's a lot to learn there. So I'm excited for that masterclass coming up. But I wanted to point out one thing you mentioned, because I have a confession to make. You mentioned what you always say, VFM, viral for me. And our Think Media podcast listeners and our VRA community would know that that's one of the things I've stolen from you. So I have taught VFM to our community. One of the other ones I say all the time, I'm like, listen, you got to be brief, be bright, be fun, and be done.
That's awesome.
I never give you credit.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
And that's probably one of scared money don't make money, you know.
Who did you steal the riches are in the niches from?
I don't think, is that one even stealable? I don't know who could have said that
but
first.
My son gives you credit for it all the time.
There's no way that was.
Yeah, you get credit for a lot of things.
That's just
in
one
my
of
household.
those. Technically, it's niches, so
Right.
it's the riches are in the niches, but it only works, and everybody gets offended if they don't live in the U.S. where we say niche.
Yeah,
the riches are in the niches, but that one I don't. That's one of those ones that's been so stolen.
Yeah,
that
but
it'd be hard.
Still so true.
It is so true.
Still so true.
So if any more come to mind, but what people will begin to realize is that, your frameworks and all of these strong principles that you teach are really concrete. And that's why.
I try to simplify them because it can be super duper overwhelming. And as you know, I've got extreme ADHD. So this stuff would really overwhelm me and complicate me. Like there's all these things I'm supposed to be doing all at once. My executive function dysfunctions and I don't know which one to do first, so I try to do all of them. And I've just learned, especially in business, that you have to slow down and go, okay, there's a step one, what do I do second, what do I do third, because I can't do all these things at once. If I do, I'll fail, and then I feel defeated. So because I struggle with that, I think I'm good at simplifying these things, even though sometimes I like to make it easy, even though sometimes the content, it just requires someone breaking it down in simple steps.
Yeah, I love that. So speaking of monetization, and you're talking about some of these steps, one of the biggest steps that was kind of funny because I had been trying to grow on social media from 2007 was when I first started a YouTube channel for my church. That's super early days. 2010, Think Media starts. I had my video production channel, and I had my personal channel where I was doing a lot of random, mainly on YouTube, vlogs, cooking videos, movie reviews, all this random stuff. And so now I'm doing my best to absorb learnings and education from people. But for 2010 to 2015, made a little money with ranking videos and affiliate marketing. But then I discovered your podcast, Build Your Tribe. And then eventually I joined your program, the Marketing Impact Academy. Then
became a professor.
And then became a professor in the Marketing Impact Academy. But one of the things that multiple episodes on Build Your Tribe just started to revolutionize my thinking was you started saying you need to build an email list. Also not super sexy. Wasn't like, like, let's go. I'm pumped. Like, let's, because I want to go make a video or I want to go vlog with my wife and our dogs down in Laguna Beach at the time, and kind of go do fun stuff. But there's also these practical things. And that changed everything. And even today, brand new stats, 2023 came out about how email marketing is the most effective way to get to actually reach people when algorithms are so fickle. Why do you encourage people to build an email list?
It's crazy that is still the thing. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I thought that would be the case 10 years later, I would say I'm not sure. But like yesterday, I met with some, big YouTubers who they started a podcast like 9 years ago. And 2 years ago, they started doing YouTube channel, right? And they're like, that's when we realized like we've got to build our email list. And he said two things happened. First of all, people found them on YouTube, their podcast. And then secondly, they started to truly monetize because they focused on their email list. And recently they were just approached by a major player, Spotify, reached out to them to acquire them for a deal that is a pretty hefty 8 figures.
Wow.
To go exclusive on Spotify, and they declined Spotify was like, what?
Yeah.
Hello, do you know who we are? But they just say that because you don't see that. You don't see an email list. I mean, I don't talk about my email list, but I'm building it every single day in social. Not every story, but every day I'm doing something on stories that's intentionally working to reach that person who's like, I want more. I'm not here for the haircut. I want to learn more. I want to go deeper. And I want to be able to serve those people. And then it's really knowing how to deliver an email that people are going to open.
Yeah. Well, we could spin off on that. These days at Think Media, we're talking about open rates and deliverability and subject lines and copy.
It's fascinating stuff.
And the different service providers and the nuances of deliverability that they have. And you can get pretty deep.
So I have to say this. I can't tell you, because I got hacked in 2015, right? So for whatever reason, my name gets passed around to everybody in social media, celebrities. I've had like people on TV shows have their agents reach out to me, so-and-so got hacked. The people who are the most freaked out when they reach out to me are the people who have built an empire in social, and they are devastated because they've got a notification from, let's say, Instagram, violation of community guidelines. Account is gone, which means money is gone, sponsorship's gone. Like it's all gone because they didn't build those foundational pieces. You asked me earlier, there's so many people, probably 3 a week. I hear from people who are like, I had the 2-factor authentication. I was using password protected software. I was doing all the things. We had 2-factor authentication, all the things, and I still got hacked, or I still lost my account, or I still fill in the blank. And then every once in a while I hear from someone that says, but it's okay because I've got my email list, and so I can rebuild it, and I still have a way to make income. So it isn't sexy, but neither is opening up a bank account. Neither is doing some of the things that are It's adulting. And if you're on social media, this is the adulting you need to do.
Man, that is so powerful. And what are some tips? You know, Think Media got hacked. Think Media Podcast, this YouTube channel that this episode will be on. We had two-factor on. It was probably cookie hijacking. It was Tesla official or Tesla CEO where they start streaming Elon Musk to scam crypto. They used a Google Titan key on their end as soon as they got us out of it. So then it was like they were the ones that had the authority. And then for 10 days, our ad revenue went to zero. We couldn't upload, obviously. And one, grateful it wasn't our main channel. Two, big wake-up call. Three, I was still able to sleep good at night because of our email list, our actual business, diversification of our brand.
It is so scary, and it's such a violation.
Yeah.
Like I remember the pit in the bottom of my stomach. Like
Huge pit.
You feel like someone has broken into your home. It is the weirdest feeling. And I hear from people all the time, they're like, no one would, I'm not of interest. I've got 200 followers or whatever. I'm like, no, you are an identity. So you are of interest. You are of value. And a lot of times these schemes are aimed at people who have a big following, but the people who get these huge numbers when we're looking at the statistics of people who are hacked on a daily basis, it's just random.
What are some of your quick tips? A couple topics I want to hit as we land the plane, which is famous last words. We're not even close to landing the plane, but but just a few tips on keeping yourself safe that you've learned. I also want to hear about Patreon. We get a lot of questions about that. You're a Patreon legend.
Yeah, thanks.
For some people, they have struggled getting that off the ground, YouTube partner channel memberships. And then maybe just touching on a little bit of what you're going to, obviously people can go to the class and there's so much to cover, but even why building a team or things like that are so critical to really create an edge eventually as you build your social media business. But speak to some of those practical things.
Yeah.
What
the
are
two things that I think are important to connect are team and protecting yourself.
Okay.
Because more often than not, especially today, the people that I'm hearing from who have lost their account, it's they were doing everything right, but they had given access to a team member or a team member accidentally clicked on a link or a team member accidentally gave, etc. So I would say, there's basics. Like the basics are two-factor authentication. The basics are using some type of authentication app versus having those numbers or codes sent directly to your phone. Because
what's an authentication app?
Like a Google authentication app. When you're logging into, say, YouTube or Instagram, you pull up that app and it will generate a code for you that expires within, I think, 30 seconds. And then you plug it into your whatever.
Instead of getting text. Because if they had your Apple ID or hacked your Apple ID, they can get the code that's text to you.
That's right. And that's what happens to a lot of people and they don't realize it. They're like, I got it back and then I lost it again. That's why. There's so many steps ahead of us that you just need to do the basics. Like use an authentication app. Always use a password manager. Don't think, I've got really great passwords and I keep them on my phone note. I put them on, if you're my dad, I put it on a little Post-it note on the top of my laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to use that. And then you have to make sure your entire team does.
Yeah.
And almost all of those apps are low cost and it's a mandatory thing. Nobody on my team touches any accounts unless they're using the app where everything is authenticated.
And so team also could mean agency. It could also,
For sure.
Third-party apps are kind of scary because if something is logged into your YouTube channel via a third-party app and that gets hacked, that is actually a vulnerability point. Which
I haven't heard much of that.
I haven't heard much of that either,
but
they do say, because you say, do you trust this account that you're allowing to, So those are some great tips. We'll come back to building it a little bit about getting a team around this, but what are you guys doing on Patreon?
Fun. So that to me is really community. Right. So that is, you think about the people when I'm creating long form content and podcasts. So I've got a business podcast and then I have a personal podcast. It's lifestyle, it's health, etc. We just talk about everything, lifestyle. And there I just found I've got some people who listen to the show that just want more of the personal stuff, like really want the off the record, how do you really feel kind of thing, which maybe isn't valuable to somebody else, but it's interesting or entertaining to a certain segment of your population. And so we created a Patreon, and it's just so fun because it's like your deepest friends or your raving fans, right?
Yes.
And so that's fun. It's super low production. I literally grab my phone, I don't even use a microphone. I record it while I'm in my car. I record it while I'm trying on clothes. Like I record it while I'm putting on my makeup. So it's like they're spending time with me. They know it's not scripted. It's completely authentic. It's the stuff that I don't feel appropriate putting on the regular show, and it's fun. But most importantly, it builds this solid community of people that belong. People are looking for a place to belong, and when when people are now paying content creators, whether it's on Instagram, now has a subscription, I'm sure TikTok's going to follow, YouTube's doing their own thing too, and I think that's the move, man. Whatever platform you're on, that's the move.
Yeah, community, taking that place where you're moving them from whatever platform to someplace deeper. That's very fascinating. And
I will say this about the Patreon app. It's janky. Like, it's not great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're making millions and millions. Like, how are they not improving this platform? It works great for the end user.
Yeah.
But as a creator, I'm like, this is funky. So I hope it improves. Or they'll get put out of business. Somebody else will take over.
And there are, off the top of channel memberships. Channel memberships from YouTube's kind of a bummer. They take 30%.
30%?
Yeah, Patreon takes like 5%.
Yeah.
And I know there's some other alternatives, but the idea of building community is so powerful. All right, building a team, like all the way back to trends are dying, things are changing. Business owners are listening to this, entrepreneurs that want to build their personal brand, they want to get into social media. What's building a team? Riff on that.
Yeah, I would think the first thing you have to do is don't think about building a team. Think about hiring one part-time temporary person. Like, you just need help. You just need help. Like, you can't be doing all this stuff yourself. And especially because now I think another trend we're going to see is moving away from quantity, right? Like, you got to post more. You got to, more. I think people are like, nah, I want better. So in order to produce better content, that means better editing. And I don't know about you, but I want to do the research to create the best content. I don't want to do the research and spend all the time editing when there are people who can do that at a fraction of what it would cost me to spend my time doing that. And they're going to do it better. So it's like, even just consider batch creating some content and finding somebody who will edit some reels for you, or edit some YouTube shorts, or edit some TikToks, or just maybe even taking a look. Here's the way I would say, let me just give you a quick takeaway. Do this, all right? Go on to Upwork.com and or Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and hire somebody to take the videos or the content you've already produced in the last 6 months that did well, your best performing content. Send it to them and say, re-edit this, make it better, make it more captivating, put the hook at the front, and you're going to get content. You can produce that again. It's already proven, and now it's going to perform even better. You won't have to spend any time, zero time. You don't have to create the content, you don't have to edit it, and you'll be shocked at how much that will do for your growth and your brand and your mental health.
Yeah.
Like, being an entrepreneur, trying to grow on social media, all these things, it can kill you. Like, if you're not smart about figuring out who is the first person you need to delegate to help you. And don't think of it as a full-time thing. Just pay project by project.
That's super powerful. And speaking of when you're in a social media recession, when you're trying to raise the level, it's going to be very difficult to raise the level by yourself.
Dude, yeah.
When somebody else is potentially, we're not talking about having to break the bank here.
No.
Deeper in your programs, you teach about outsourcing and how affordable that can be. And part of it's also systems, the right tools, the right systems, the right people. And it's not I've seen the limiting belief. I've had the limiting belief of, okay, so I got to hire somebody for a $60,000 a year salary.
Yeah.
They're a W-2 employee. I have to pay employment taxes. I need a healthcare plan probably if I'm even going to get this person.
Right.
I probably need an office that they'll come and you just like
a lunchroom.
You spin off. Yeah. I'm going to have to stock the snack bar. And it's like, no, you could hire somebody for 10 hours.
Legit. Yeah.
Like, and that when you do the actual economics and math, as you say, scared money don't make money.
And we break that down for our students, our members inside Marketing Impact Academy. A lot of times when they join, they don't have a business yet. They just are like kind of scared about this idea. I'm not sure if it would work. I don't know if this is my thing. And one of the first things we teach them is how to hire. And they're like, wait, why would I hire anyone? I'm not making any money and I can't afford to do that. I've just invested in this program. Like, how are you expecting me to hire anyone? And we break it down for them so that they understand, like, no, it's not hiring a full-time person. That I don't know very many people that would.
Yeah.
It's who do you need right now so that you can start making money? What's the minimum amount of money that you can spend? Let me show you where to hire them, where to find them, how to write the ad, how to interview them, how to vet their portfolio, how to know how are you supposed to pay them, what's the right going rate depending on what country they're in. All of those things people don't know unless you teach them how to do those. And who's the first hire, second hire, third hire? What do I do if I do want somebody full-time? Like, all of those things are, having been in business for 30 years, been there, done that.
So I want to know the opportunity that awaits us. There's definitely some challenges in front of us, but what is the opportunity that's also ahead? And we will land the plane with that. But just as a reminder, Chalene is going to be teaching a deep dive class all about where social media is today, how do you actually capture attention, and how more tactical advice on how to thrive in any economy with what's working right now, and specifically going deeper with monetization. So it's going to be power packed. You can check out the show notes for a link to register. It's entirely free, or just go to www.ideatoincome.tips to register for that. And
are we still saying www?
Because it's
Your staff
dot
is laughing
tips.
off camera.
I know. And
that was for my mom.
I don't love URLs that are not .com. But because it's
agreed.
.tips, that's kind of like...
Okay, I'm glad you said that because my
So-
brain missed that. I was so focused on the WW.
Exactly. So to know that this is a URL
Yes.
that will take you to register for
tips.
this free
Okay.
class, www.
Fair. Case made.
ideatoincome.tips, or just go to the show notes and use that link. But all that to say is there's many challenges, but what do you see as the opportunity ahead for leaning
It's
into?
big. It's awesome because what is another trend that's just dead is the perfection stuff. Like, oh my God, especially as a woman, so annoying, so triggering, so like, ugh, I want to throw up at some of the stuff that you felt like you had to post before, right? And how perfect your house had to be a certain aesthetic and your kids had to match it. Like, none of it made any sense to me. And, I have to be like a bro standing in front of my Rolls Royce. Like, none of that stuff works. And so, pretty privilege, all that stuff goes by the wayside. People want real. And that is awesome because it's so much easier to remember, like, to keep track of who you are if you're just who you are, as opposed to putting on this like social media persona and pretending and editing. And it's getting a backlash. People don't want to see that. They want legit, real. And if you know how to be real, that's a huge opportunity. And it's a lot easier.
Wow. I love that advice. Chalene Johnson, you're teaching the class that'll be in the show notes, but if people want to follow you and connect with you, how can they connect with you?
Well, I'd love to invite them to listen to either podcast. The Chalene Show is my lifestyle stuff. Lots of good comedy there. And then Build Your Tribe is my son Brock and I, and that's just business stuff. Like, we try to be brief, bright, and make it fun, and then we're just done.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much for adding so much value today.
Thank you. It's fun.